This is what I tell young people all the time. Show up. I don't care if you have to fly in the back of economy, if you have to stay in a crappy hotel. If there's a potential for a job or to level up in your career, show up. I said, of course I'm going to be in LA on that date. They gave me an address. I Ubered over to the house. Security patted me down. They introduced me to Bobby. He gave me a cell number and said, my social media is effed. We need help with our social media. And I started texting him, every couple of days with ideas. I put together little strategy memos. I would just email unsolicited. And finally, his daughter-in-law called and said, well, I guess we should hire you to work on the campaign. And the rest is history. So show up, people. Show up, young people.
I couldn't agree more with that. You either have that attitude or you don't. Like, I've now been at this job for, I don't know how, I've been in the professional working arena for longer than I care to say. Actually, if I start doing the math, I can count on like 2 fingers, Link, the number of times I have not gone to work. Like I literally have to be actively in the middle of vomiting to not show up. It's just who I am. Like I will crawl over hot coals to get to do my job because I just feel like that's the commitment that I've made. And by the way, even that presidential debate where Donald Trump and I tussled, I'd been violently vomiting all day long. Like I mean it. Like, which is why, I mean, this is probably not great for me as a boss, but I don't have such an employee right now, just for the record. But like, if I had somebody who was like constantly calling out sick or like, oh, I can't be there, or don't know, I can't make it, I'd get rid of them. It's like, I'm sorry, but like either you have this crusher work ethic or you don't. And I'm not in a job where that can even be abused. Journalism, it's not like law where, oh, I'll take all 24 of your hours, all of them. This is like, at worst, you're going to be giving like 9 hours. Like, shut up and do it. Sorry, that's how I feel.
Well, that's what happened with the White House, too. I said, I don't have a press pass. I don't know if I can get in. And my friends at the White House, they said, just show up. Showing up is half the job. I showed up, had no idea what was going to happen that day. I said, do you think there's a chance I could be included in this event? Let me see. Yeah, you can be included. Then I got to talk to President Trump and ask him a question. That's where the magic happens. Show up and go on that blind faith and work your ass off. All the young people listening and all the moms, tell your kids, okay? Show up.
Yes. Wait, so that's the one where he was like, I don't know, who the hell is this guy, but I love him.
Yes, exactly. There was a really small group that was going to be covering that NASCAR event. And I went in and I said, I have no idea what the difference is between this pool and this press pool or the swimming pool. But if you guys would include me, I would be honored to be included. I'm so grateful. It's an auspicious place. I don't take it for granted being here. The woman in the office said, let me go check. She comes back and says, yeah, you can come and be included in that event. So there were probably 6 or 7 of us, and President Trump came walking out, and he kept looking at me. I think President Trump thought I was going to be some super liberal he was going to spar with. He was sort of looking at me going, oh, I'm going to eat this guy alive. And then he ended up liking me and said, I love this guy. Who the hell are you? And so that is where the magic happens. Show up, people. Even if you're not actually going to be there, lie.
Before he knows your name very, very well. So let's talk about you a little bit.
I think he does now.
I want to hear more about how Link Lauren came into this world and was raised, and how you got to be a conservative. So talk to us about your background.
So it's interesting. I think people have this narrative that I was somehow super liberal and then I switched over the last few years and made a hard right turn. That's really not the case. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I went to an all-boys school where we wore uniforms. It was a very conservative environment. But growing up, I was always super involved in politics, right? From the time I was 14, I would put together these town halls with kids from different schools in our area. And we would talk about hot button issues, gender, race, news items that were going on. And I'd get a chaperone, I'd get pizza, I'd collect money for the pizza, and kids would come once a month and we would discuss these issues. From there, I got invited to go to all these leadership conferences in high school. I got to go to DC and speak on Capitol Hill to advocate for some of the issues in my hometown, kids who weren't getting accommodations they were promised. Because any parent out there who has a kid with special needs or learning disabilities, the public schools might not have the resources. The private schools, they aren't obligated to help you in any way. So I was in DC advocating for that as a teenager. And then I decided, for some dumb reason, to go to NYU. So I wanted to move to New York because there weren't a lot of people like me. I knew one other gay person. I just wanted to go to New York, and I loved New York and grew up watching any shows I could about New York. So I went to NYU, and it was a super liberal environment. Like, the teachers are wearing Birkenstocks with rainbow leggings, utter calamity,
just
disaster.
So people know, Barron Trump is going through this same experience right now. Keep going.
Yes. One of my biggest videos, part of the reason some of the Trump people started following me, I did a video last year on Barron going to NYU and some advice I had for him, and it went bonkers. So I pray for Barrett every single day at NYU, but I think he's a pretty strong kid. So
Yes.
NYU, I worked all through there. I was an assistant to someone in the music industry, and he would have like Bon Jovi come over for dinner. I remember Valerie from Ashford and Simpson came over and would play piano and sing. And so I was always working as an assistant, fetching coffee, making copies, then going to class during the day. And then COVID hit. And my degree was useless. I studied music business, entertainment. I studied a little bit of entertainment law. And there was no entertainment industry really during COVID. The music industry was dead. And a lot of my friends had sort of moved home. They had fallen into bad habits. And there was this app called TikTok. So I was not going to do those silly dances on TikTok. That would be social suicide. I decided to start posting about politics and news, and I did that. And then in May of 2023 is when my video started to take off. In June of 2023, the Kennedy campaign said, we see these videos you're doing on the campaign. How can we get a list of the people who are commenting? I said, there's no way to export a list of these people who are commenting, because young people were saying, who the heck is this RFK guy? Is he JFK Jr.? Who is this? They didn't really know. And the campaign said, we want to capitalize on that. And I said, well, why don't I film something with Bobby and do a whole thing on him? And that, the rest is sort of history.
Wow. So you lean more right because you grew up in Texas, and are your parents conservative? How did your politics get formed?
So my mom says she's an independent, which is code for she loves Trump. But yeah, my dad is conservative. My brother drives a big pickup truck and handles heavy machinery. And he's always now that I travel and I go to these events with hot conservative women, my brother's always like, got any babes? You set me up, hook your brother up, tell him your brother with the truck wants to date. So yeah, I did go probably a little more left when I went to NYU because it's all being shoved down your throat. And there wasn't a ton of alternative media. The podcast space wasn't really popping off at that time. Megyn, you didn't even have your podcast yet. You weren't in the independent space. Tucker wasn't in the independent space. And so I was basically consuming mainstream news, and my classmates at NYU said, Trump is the boogeyman. Trump's going to destroy democracy. Hillary was robbed. They're still crying over that night at the Javits Center. And I just started looking around going, I don't know, this really isn't me. And then when my TikTok took off, I paid for myself. I flew to Iowa, I got on a bus, and I went to all of these primary events. And that's how I connected with the Ramaswamy campaign. I would show up at events, and I remember asking, if Nikki Haley had 60 seconds to film a video with me. She said, no, I would never film a TikTok. I remember waiting out in the hot sun at the Reagan Library for hours to film something with Pence because I was trying to get all the primary candidates. Pence did not want to film with me, even though I submitted questions ahead of time, and they were softballs. And so I would just show up at events on my own dime, hoping to film a TikTok video. And at the time, Trump wasn't on TikTok. They were like, this is the CCP. We're not going to film with you. And I would kind of just be shut out of events. And so when people say now I'm gushing over Caroline Leavitt at the White House, I'm not gushing over anyone. I'm just so grateful that new media is included at the White House, because you guys don't know what it was like for me traveling through Iowa and New Hampshire and being shut out by comms directors and press secretaries who wouldn't let me film 60 seconds. I was doing millions of views a week on TikTok. Maybe you guys should have tried to reach my young people, Nikki Haley and Mike Pence. And so that's why I'm so grateful for new media at the White House. I'm not sycophantic. I really am that grateful to be there. I'm happy to be there.
No, it's so stupid and short-sighted not to take advantage of this person who has a big presence on a very relevant, yes, controversial, but very relevant app where millions of young Americans go religiously every day, multiple times a day. I mean, multiple times a day. So it's so short-sighted of them.
In the month of May, when I really popped off was May of 2023, I did 32 million views on TikTok alone. That's over 1 million views a day. My videos were going crazy because I was the only one with really my perspective. Nobody who looked like me had my perspective. I was talking about men and women's sports, the immigration crisis, East Palestine, Ohio, all of these things, the train derailment. Nobody who looked like me was giving this perspective on TikTok. So my page was going crazy. And I couldn't understand why folks like Pence and Haley and other primary candidates I won't name wouldn't even give me 30 seconds. And I film with my phone. I pull out and ask them a fun, silly question. For me, it's just getting them in front of my audience. A lot of my audience didn't know who Nikki Haley was. So I couldn't understand them shutting me out when I'm doing more views a day, huge views in the target demo that all these shows want. I am doing about 1 million views a day in the target demo, and you guys don't have 30 seconds from me. And, I wish them well now.
This July, there is a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers, including China, Russia, India, and Iran, are meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling this the Rio Reset as BRICS nations push forward with their plans. Some worry global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset could mark a pivotal moment. So learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free info kit on gold by texting MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, let Birch Gold arm you with a free, no-obligation info kit on owning gold before July and the Rio Reset. Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.